And now back to our story. The spring of 1945 was a season of blood. Europe bled from every corner. The world was supposed to be nearing the end of the war, yet for those in the mud and fire, the end felt like a distant dream. From the frozen wastes of Russia to the battered streets of Germany, men fought and died. It was a song of survival. Each day dawned with uncertainty, and each sunset bled into the unknown. Inside a Sherman tank named Iron Angel, 5 men carried their lives in steel. The tank rumbled through the shattered landscape like a wounded beast. Its crew, an unlikely symphony of personalities held together by a common thread of courage and camaraderie. Their commander was Captain Robert Hale, calm under fire, but haunted in the silence between battles. His gaze was steady, his decisions decisive, his presence a beacon of hope in the swirling chaos. Beside him sat Mason, the gunner, a man whose tongue was as sharp as his aim, his cynicism a shield, hiding a wounded spirit. Opposite them, Doyle, the driver, with eyes that had seen too much, steered the Iron Angel through the maelstrom. Next to him was Evans, the loader, balancing shells and jokes in equal measure, his humor a lifeline in the darkest moments. And finally, nestled in the turret, was the youngest of them all, Thomas, barely 20 years old, fresh from training, his hands still trembled when holding a rifle. Robert saw something of his younger self in Thomas, a reflection of the boy who enlisted, full of ideals and dreams, and the man he'd become hardened by battles, clinging to life. As the Iron Angel rumbled forward, they carried with them the hopes and prayers of a world yearning for peace. Robert, a father twice over, wondered if he'd ever see his children again. Mason, a former schoolteacher, hoped to return to the quiet rustle of papers and chalk on a blackboard. Doyle dreamed of the open road, free from mines and ambushes. Evans thought of his wife's gentle touch, and Thomas of his sweetheart, Lily, whose image he kept tucked inside his shirt. Days blurred into smoke and thunder. The Iron Angel roared through the ravaged landscape, its steel heart pounding the rhythm of survival. They charged through ruined towns, raced across fields littered with the remnants of battles, and slept fitfully under the cold stare of the moon. Inside the cramped confines of the tank, the men laughed, cursed, and prayed, their brotherhood forged in fire and cemented in the shared knowledge that they might not see another sunrise. Yet even in the direst moments, there was camaraderie. Evans told stories of his youth, Doyle sang mournful songs of the old country, and Mason, surprisingly, recited poetry. Even Thomas, usually so quiet, shared tales of his village, his voice gaining strength with each retelling. They were a tapestry of humanity, woven together by the harsh threads of war, their differences fading into the background noise of gunfire and fear. But in the rare stillness of night, when the tank stood guard, silently watching the darkness, Thomas would take out a crumpled photograph of a girl. Her hair was the color of wheat, her eyes the blue of a summer sky. Her smile was soft, untouched by the war that raged outside their metal sanctuary. "She's waiting for me," Thomas whispered once, his voice breaking in the silence. "She writes every week." Robert placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. The memory of his own wife and children, lost to the war, was a dull ache in his heart. Then fight like hell to get back to her. Thomas nodded, clutching the photo like a lifeline. The forest around them was thick and oppressive, the trees silent witnesses to the horrors of war. As they moved deeper into enemy territory, survival became a currency they could no longer afford. Each step forward was a gamble, each bend in the road a potential ambush. The Iron Angel, with its dented armor and scarred crew, became a symbol of resilience, its very existence a defiance of the chaos around them. Robert, ever the strategist, planned their route, navigating not just the physical terrain, but also the emotional landscape of his men. He knew that the enemy they faced wasn't just the soldiers in the distance, but also the despair that threatened to consume them. Then one morning, their worst fears materialized. A hidden mine tore one of the treads apart, stranding them near a lonely crossroads. A column of enemy troops appeared on the horizon, advancing steadily towards them. Their numbers seemed endless, their faces grim and determined. Robert had a choice. Abandon the tank and flee into the woods, hoping to evade the enemy, or hold the crossroads and delay the enemy, buying precious time for reinforcements to arrive. He looked at his men, their faces grim, their eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. There was no easy choice, no right answer, only the duty to survive, to resist, to hold the line until help arrived. "We hold," Robert said, his voice firm, betraying none of the turmoil within. The decision made, the men sprang into action. The tank roared back to life, its cannon spitting fire. Bullets sliced through the air, ricocheting off the tank's armor. Grenades rattled against the metal walls, forcing the crew to dive for cover. The world around them erupted into chaos, a cacophony of noise and destruction. Smoke billowed, obscuring their vision. The ground trembled beneath them. Adrenaline surged through their veins, overriding the fear that threatened to paralyze them. Robert, with the coolness born of experience, directed the battle, his voice a steady presence amidst the storm. Mason, cursing under his breath, tracked the enemy movements, his gun a deadly instrument of vengeance. Doyle, his face grim, drove the tank forward, defying the hail of bullets aimed at them. Evans, calm and efficient, loaded shell after shell, his eyes focused, his hands steady. And Thomas, his youthful face streaked with dirt and sweat, fired with unwavering determination. The photograph of Lily clutched in his hand for courage. Together, they formed a unit, their individual strengths weaving into a tapestry of resistance. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Each new enemy soldier that approached meant another notch of danger, another challenge to their dwindling ammunition. And most importantly, another life hanging in the balance. Yet with every passing moment, their resolve grew stronger. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for each other. They were fighting for the hope of a future. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the enemy began to falter. Their advance, initially so confident, now lacked purpose. Their gunfire, once relentless, became sporadic. The Iron Angel, though battered and bruised, still stood defiant, its crew a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. Finally, the order came over the radio. Reinforcements had arrived. A wave of relief washed over the crew. But their ordeal was not over yet. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded away, Robert found himself surrounded by the remnants of war. Around him lay the stories of fallen comrades, each with their own dreams, hopes, and fears. It was a sobering reminder of the true cost of conflict, the human toll. He looked at Thomas, his young charge, his face pale but resolute, his eyes shining with a newfound strength. In the depths of that moment, Robert saw not a boy, but a warrior forged in the fires of adversity. Later that day, as the Iron Angel moved out from the crossroads, Robert noticed Thomas holding the photograph of Lily close to his chest. He knew that for Thomas, the battle was more than just about survival. It was about returning to the life that awaited him. With a lump in his throat, he understood that not everyone would have that chance. He hoped, prayed that Thomas would make it back to her, but the war, as if in a cruel twist of fate, had other plans. Weeks later, news spread through the town like wildfire. The war was over. Celebrations erupted. People danced in the streets, their laughter echoing the joy of liberation. Bells chimed, their music mingling with the cheers. But in a small, quiet corner of the town, Thomas stood alone, his heart heavy. He'd made it home, but victory felt distant. He found Lily waiting on the porch, her eyes wide with anticipation, her smile ready to light up the day. But when she saw the haunted look in his eyes, the carefree joy faded. He fell into her arms, whispering only one thing: "I made it. Because of them." He never spoke much of the battle at the crossroads. But every year, on that day, Thomas lit a single candle beside a steel model of a tank, whispering the names of the men who never returned. For him, love had survived. For them, it had become eternal in ashes and steel.